Alright, how's it going, guys? So today we're going to do AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Quiz number 1. Thought this would be pretty good to do because I don't want to get rusty with my AWS stuff, because I did this exam around the end of 2022. I think it's September 9th is when I got it. I'm just looking at the certification right now. But without further ado, let's get right into this one. Alright, so for the first question, which of the following AWS services should a client utilize to audit the change management of AWS resources? So first we have Amazon CloudWatch, Amazon Inspector, AWS Config, or AWS Trusted Advisor. So you can take a minute to think about that one, pause the video if you need to, but the answer for this one is going to be AWS Config. That is what you would use to audit the change management. Question number 2, what is required to use the AWS CLI or command line interface? First we have network access to port 445, an IAM user, Linux, or a secret key. So in order to use the AWS CLI, what it requires is it's going to require you a secret key. Third question, what would be a shared responsibility between a client and AWS under the shared responsibility model? So we have zone security, physical controls, patch management, and data center auditing. So for this one, for shared responsibilities between a client and AWS under the shared responsibility model, it's going to be patch management. Fourth question, how should applications be created to function in the AWS cloud according to best practices? First option, we have use frequently coupled components, use infrequently coupled components, use tightly coupled components, use loosely coupled components. And I just want to touch up on this one a little bit because I know this is one that new people kind of get tripped up on about. So what you're going to want to do in this situation is you're going to want to use loosely coupled components, because you want components or things that you're using within your cloud architecture, you want them to operate as independently as possible. So if one thing fails, then the other doesn't, or multiple don't at the same time. So you're going to want to use loosely coupled components. Question 5, in terms of cloud architecture, what term refers to being able to add and take away resources without performance loss? First, we have think parallel, second, scalability, third, agility, and fourth, elasticity. So a lot of you will probably notice if you're studying for CompT exams as well, you hear this a ton, but what you're going to use to add and take away resources without performance loss is elasticity. Number 6, how would you describe an AWS application that is hosted in multiple availability zones? So first, being highly available, economy of scale, having elasticity, or having global reach. And this might trip up new people as well, because you might think, okay, it's in multiple availability zones. This sounds like it has global reach. Well, availability zones can be in the same country, so we know that having global reach wouldn't be the best answer. That'd be more leaning towards regions, but the best answer for this one is going to be being highly available. So if one goes down, then you can just resource to the other one. So question 7, what would be the customer's responsibility while administering AWS Lambda functions under the shared responsibility model? First, we have updating Lambda runtime environments, scaling Lambda resources according to demand, creating versions of Lambda functions, and maintaining Lambda servers and operating systems. So the answer for this one is going to be creating versions of Lambda functions, because you need to update those by yourself. Question 8, what is an IAM role? First option, a role assigned to someone visiting a web server, a role given to only an admin of an AWS account, permissions granted to someone who works at AWS, or centrally managed permissions that control which AWS resources users can access. So if you know anything about IAM rules, we know that it gives permissions to people and people within like your AWS account and what they can access. So this one is going to be centrally managed permissions that control which AWS resources can be accessed by users or resources users can access. Question 9. What is the maximum time a Lambda function will run before it times out? First, we have 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or 5 minutes. And this is one that you kind of just have to know. It's not really one that you can use process of elimination because you have to know it, but the answer for this one is going to be 15 minutes. A Lambda function will time out at 15 minutes. And last but not least, number 10, which AWS resources cannot be encrypted using KMS? So we have RDS database, DynamoDB databases, an existing AWS Elastic Block Store volume, or S3 buckets. So this is a really important one that you want to remember as well, because they probably will ask you this, and it's just good to know for information that you need to know within using AWS and administrating AWS accounts. You want to know that you cannot encrypt an existing AWS Elastic Block Store volume. You can only encrypt one while you're creating it. You cannot encrypt it after it's created. So it's going to be an existing AWS Elastic Block Store volume. All right, and that is it for this one, guys. Again, if you like the video, please consider subscribing, like the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.